All right. Well, uh, thank you for coming out to stopping whatever it is that you're doing today and being here for the Portrait Profit Show. Today we're going to be talking about doubling your wedding sale. Now this can apply to other types of photography, but you'll see that it is very geared towards wedding photography. But the philosophy could be applied in lots of different ways. But today we're going to be talking about doubling your wedding sale and how I discovered this. This was partially, no, this was really by accident. I mean, I did this on purpose, but I didn't think it would have the effect that it had. I was surprised. I went into it without the knowledge that it would cause this. And I'll tell you more about that here in just a little while. But before I do, I want to let let you guys know a little bit more about Portrait Profits. Portrait Profits is a weekly show about the business side of photography. We try to make it interesting and fun, but we know that the business side is the area where most people have difficulty. The reason why most people fail in the photography business is not because of photography. That doesn't mean their photography can't improve. We know a lot of examples and we know ourselves, we can improve. But the business side generally is the problem. And a lot of times it's the price list that's the problem. And so we talk about some different things that can help you out on that side, and we do it totally for free. And I keep saying we, so let me tell you who that is. That's Landers Photography School. You can see my little sign sitting behind me, but that's also Digital Pro Lab. And with us today, we have a representative from Digital Pro Lab, Javi Valdez.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Thanks again for inviting me to speak. Yeah, like Jim was saying, this is a collaboration between Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Digital Pro Lab, we are the largest printing. We're the largest photo lab here in the San Antonio area, and so we've been in business for nearly 30 years. Helping the photographic community here in San Antonio. Like I said, my name's Javi. My role here at the lab, I work with all of our new photographers or photographers who are looking to get online with Digital Pro Lab. I work with them to make sure that they're able to successfully get set up with our ordering systems, understand our catalogs, understand our product offerings, what's going to be best for them. And so, like I said, I have conversations every day with people ranging from what should I print on to, hey, what's the best way to put in this order that I have for, the soccer team that I just shot over the weekend. How much should I be charging for things, things of that nature. So these are all conversations I have on a daily basis with a lot of our clients. And so if you're somebody who is interested in starting printing, or maybe you're printing somewhere else and you want to, possibly bring your business local, I'll put my email address in the chat down there. Oh, sorry, my cat is here to say hi to everybody. But I'll put my information down there in the chat so that way you guys can get a hold of me, ask me any questions you want. Right now, I also wanted to mention over at digitalprolab.com, we are still running our business marketing materials promo. So that's from today. I mean, I guess we started it last week, but until Thursday of this week, so the 17th. If you go over to digitalprolab.com and you go over to our products category and look for our digital press marketing materials, we're going to be doing 30% off of all of those. So that catalog includes brochures, trifolds, everything from business cards, comp cards, stuff like that. And you guys can go check those out. Get 30% off of that using the code MARKET30. I really encourage all of you to do that. If you don't have a really good business card, or if you don't have a really professionally printed price sheet that you can hand your customers whenever you're in their home, talking with them about what you're going to be creating together, I really encourage you to do that. And so, like I said, I'll throw all this in the chat. But again, Jim, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to hearing about this topic we got coming up.
That's great. Thank you for sharing about Digital Pro Lab and of course the special that you're extending to us for 30% off any of the marketing materials. That's fantastic. So business cards and comp cards and anything that's just regular printed materials, right? Yeah, fantastic. Market 30. That's the promo code. For those of you here who are here on Zoom, Javi just put in his email address so that you can reach out to him and the promo code to get that special discount on the marketing materials from Digital Pro Lab. And so thank you for doing that. I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of the Portrait Profits website. That's at portraitprofits.com. And I'll also share that for you guys in the for you who are here on Zoom. I'll share the link just so you can click it and know exactly where to go. There we go. portraitprofits.com. And I also want to invite you to join Robin and I in Colorado. We're going to be in Durango and Pagosa Springs area in August. And so we want to beat the heat and have some fun in Colorado. So go to pagosaphotoworkshops.com to learn more about what we'll be doing in Colorado. This is going to be fun. Can't wait. Two other photographers, both used to live here in San Antonio, but both now live in Colorado, will be there teaching as well. So a good group of people will be joining us there. So I just put that address again for those of you who are here on Zoom. We'll get to see that. Those of you who are on joining us via Facebook, just go to pagosaphotoworkshops.com, pagosaphotoworkshops.com, and also portraitprofits.com. So you can see what we have going on there. You guys are in for a special treat. This is one of those topics that really helps the bottom line, assuming you implement it correctly. Now, this is not a tool that's going to be for everyone. It's going to be a tool that you can, indirectly it is, but specifically you may choose to use it exactly the way I'm presenting it, or you may choose to tweak it and make it totally your own. And that's what I assume most of you will probably do. But you're welcome to take my words and use them. For your business. Implement these things into your business. If you want to use that, feel free. I'm not doing wedding photography anymore. I haven't in quite some time. In fact, I'll be sharing that with you in just a little while. So if this is beneficial to you, I want you to take advantage of it. I'm going to be sharing my screen so that you can see what it is I'm going to be talking about here. And again, for those of you who are with us here on Zoom, I can see one person is trying to connect right now, so I may have to resend. I'll resend that file here in just a little while. But those of you who are here on Zoom, there's a handout. Every single time there's a handout. And so you can just download that and print it. Those of you who are watching via Facebook or watching this later when it's not live, I'm going to be showing the screen, and so you're still going to be able to see the handout. No one's missing out on anything. You get it all. So here is the handout. I'm going to make that just a bit larger because I know that shows up quite small in your window. So let's zoom that in to, let's say 200%. How does that fill up your window? Does that look good? It's perfect. Okay, perfect. And let's get rid of that. There we go. Double your wedding sale. That's why you're here this evening for this episode of the Portrait Profits Show. You want to make more money on your weddings, or maybe apply this to some other type of photography. I discovered this by accident. It was on purpose, but I didn't know this would be the result. You can double your wedding sales average with just this one change to your price list. In this episode of the Portrait Profits Show, I will share with you the 3 steps needed to make this one change happen. A little bit about me and my experience with weddings. The very first wedding I ever photographed was in 1983. Now, I was young, not even getting started. This was pre my determination I wanted to be a photographer. You know how there's a lot of things in your path that just kind of tell you this is your calling, this is what you're supposed to do. This is one of those things for me. A wedding fell in my lap. I had an interest in photography. I shared that with some people, not everybody, of course, but I shared that with some people. And this particular couple was not planning on having a photographer at all. And they asked, would I be willing to just, take a few snapshots at their wedding? And I jumped at the chance. Now, I go into that with a lot of ignorance. I don't know what I don't know. Who does? We don't. So I'm going in. I don't have, even after I got my degree in photography, and even after I'd photographed several weddings, I still went into weddings and other jobs with a lot of, I don't know, self-doubt, maybe too strong, but a lot of anxiety, being concerned because I wanted to do a good job. I didn't have any of that when I went into this one. I didn't know enough to go into it with that. Besides, I didn't go into it with any pressure at all because, again, they weren't going to be hiring a photographer anyway. So I go do this wedding, and luckily everything turns out well. And I go through, this was just before my freshman year in high school, by the way, 1983. And I go through high school. I take a handful of classes in high school, and then I decide that in college, that's going to be my major. So I go through college, and I don't photograph a single wedding in the meantime, not one. I went from 1983 to 1991 without a single wedding because that wasn't what I was trying to do. But then I started trying to do them again. So between 1991 and 2013, that's when I was actively seeking weddings. I no longer seek weddings. But in 2013, something changed. Actually, it was leading up for quite some time before that. And that was, I love helping photographers. And weddings are time consuming. Now, I love weddings. They're a lot of work, but I love weddings. They're great. I bet you guys do too, or you wouldn't be doing them. And a lot of the reason why people go into weddings is either they love them or they see the big dollar signs. They think they can make a lot of money. I've come across photographers who believe that that's where the money is, but you need to love it or you shouldn't be doing it. Yes, there are some larger dollar signs there, but there are other ways to make money. This isn't the only one, and some of them make a lot more than weddings. So now go with whatever it is that that makes you happy, that thrills you and gets you going and energizes you. So between those years, the 1991 to 2013, I actively was pursuing weddings. And, a lot of good things happened during that time. You guys might know of a little company called Kodak. It didn't used to be a little company. It used to be massive. In fact, if you added all of the photography vendors, all the different photography companies, add them up, you'd still probably wouldn't add up to the size of Kodak. Kodak was massive. And in 1999, Kodak used our work, myself and my wife, our work to advertise their products. This was in 1999. This was relatively early on in my career. I went full-time in 1991, but I was working for other photographers at the time. It wasn't until 1995 where I became independent. But within 4 years, Kodak was noticing who I was. That felt really good. And they used my work internationally. I mean, you could go to England and see my work there because they were using it to advertise their products. This definitely elevated my self-worth. This elevated the view that other people had in me, except for one small problem. They used it internationally. They didn't use it here in the US at all. That's where it would have made the biggest deal. But unfortunately, they used it somewhere else. So I can brag that Kodak has used my work, but it really didn't help. It sure feels good to say they used it, but had they used it here, I think it would have made an even bigger difference. But they did use it, and that did make me feel good. That increased my confidence. I still go in with anxiety, though, because I think we all do. We all want to do a great job. And so if you ever feel like you've lost that, well, maybe learn a few new things. Step outside of your comfort zone. because that's where you grow. In 2013, though, I decided I am spending way too much time on the wedding side of things. And so I started adding up, and I hadn't done this before. You'd think, I've been doing it for, by that time, how long is that? That's 20 years, 22 years at that point. I've been doing that for 22 years. I should have at some point added up the amount of time it took me to do that. And so I added up the time that it took me, and I realized it took me about 70 to 75 hours to photograph a wedding. About 74 was average. And so I added up the time that it took me, and I realized it took so 74 hours was the average amount of time it took me to photograph a wedding. Now, that's not seen. That's not SEEN. It's not seen. That's total time. That's from the very first time they reached out to me, a phone call, an email, a text, whatever, filling out a web form, whatever it was, the first time they reached out to me, crafting emails, things that were directly attributable to the client. All the way from those initial consultations to the driving and site surveys and the planning process, the engagement portrait session or sessions, because I photographed more than one most of the time, the bridal portrait session, the wedding itself, the drive time back and forth, and that drive time adds a lot of time to the total amount of time. So it's not just the time you're seeing. There's a massive amount of time that goes into it. In fact, on average, I would invest 27 hours before the very first photograph was created at the wedding, just because it took a lot of time to get everything done. By the way, if you're new, that's probably unfathomable. It probably makes no sense. But after you've been doing this for a while, it'll make total sense. There is just a lot, there's a lot of stuff, but that number may seem large at first. It won't after you've been doing this for long enough. And then the session itself, then your post-production, which takes about 2-to-1 ratio. So if it took you 6 hours to photograph the wedding, it'll take you up to 12 hours to do the post-production work. There are some software tools out there that greatly reduce that time, and I would definitely employ those. But it depends on the tools you have. It could take you up to twice as long. Hopefully it doesn't. And just so you know, there are tools. That's not what this class is about, so I'm not going to discuss those tools. Know that those tools are out there that will help you reduce the amount of time in culling and post-processing of those images. And then all the different steps that happen afterwards until the point where you're completely done. And what does that mean? It depends on what it is you're offering. So if you're just doing digital files, well, that may be the end right there. But if you're showing the photographs and you're creating albums and you're creating prints, well, then this takes quite a bit more time. So it depends on what you're offering. And this is someone's one-time event. So cutting corners that's kind of mean. I mean, yeah, they may be what they asked for, but they aren't the pro. They don't know what all is available. They don't know about these things. You do. So you be the pro. You do the things that are right. Just because someone else doesn't know what it is that goes on here doesn't mean it's okay to cut corners. It'd be like the roofer saying, you know what? People know how to use a hammer and nails. Why don't I just not finish putting up the roof? Hand them a bag of nails and saying, this bag's for free because I love you. Tell your friends about me. Now, we have to finish the job, guys. This is someone's one-time event. They don't know any better. Don't take advantage of that fact. Again, in 2013, I wanted to help photographers so much that I dropped weddings altogether. Now that scared the crud out of myself and my wife because we did get a large part of our income from wedding photography. But that's the choice that we made at that point in time. But I did it in a way that wasn't just cutting off altogether. I did it in a way that leads me to what we are discussing this evening. I decided I figured if I raise my rates to something that's really high, I'd be more than happy to take my time to do that. But I figured it would be a lot fewer that would take me up on it. I raised my rates from an average. My average sale was $3,000. And that was again in 2013, about $3,000. Average might have been slightly higher than that, but still, let's just say 3,000 because that's an easy number to think of in our heads. I raised the price to $12,000, thinking maybe I'll get one or two, but I don't need it. I don't want it. And if they do, I'm thrilled and happy to do it. Because, money does play a role in your decision making. And again, I loved photographing weddings, so I'd be happy to do that. I'm changing something over here. There we go. By 2013, I had already photographed about 300 weddings. And again, I created this sales method at the end of 2013, at the end of what I was considering my wedding photography career. So effectively, I was retiring from wedding photography. I didn't really see it that way. I didn't say it, but that's effectively what was going on. And so I didn't create this easy method until the end. I wish I had crossed paths with this idea long before. If I had implemented this particular thing early on in my career, I would have easily made double the amount I've made so far. So, hindsight's 2020. You know what they say, and it's true. You get to have this now, not the end of your career, but somewhere in the middle or at the beginning. So you want to double your wedding photography session income? It's really easy, and it won't take long to create or implement. Here are the 3 steps to implement this one change. Number 1, I want you to brainstorm your ideal wedding package. Now, take off your blinders when you're doing this. Take money off the table. Your goal here is wow factor. Consider everything. Make a list of all the things that you think would be ideal. Amazing. Something just incredible to have in your ultimate wedding package. Because you're only going to have one package in this potential solution. And I say potential because you get to choose. Seriously, everything. Don't hold back. Ignore costs. Just make a list of everything you think would be freaking amazing for your clients and for you. Here's some starter ideas. Unlimited time the day of the wedding. Let's talk about that one for just a little while. Popular packages include amounts of time. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Not everybody charges by the hour like that, but it's pretty popular. I'm recommending against it for this solution. I'm not telling you you're doing it wrong. Please don't see it that way. You're doing it right for you for now, but there's other ways. So in this particular scenario, I'm saying unlimited. Now, let's talk about why I would think that, why I would say that. When I was selling wedding photography packages, many of my clients were either going to go visit other wedding photographers or had already visited wedding photographers. And so any photographer who was charging by the hour, man, I could blow them away when it came to sales. I just say something, do I have that in here? No. Okay. So, and I might come back to it later, but someone who's selling by the hour is putting a piece into the mix that does not need to be there. Now, there's reasons why you might want to include that. So again, I'm not telling you you're doing it wrong, or I'm not telling you to change. I'm just telling you how easy it is to sell against it. That's the topic of this particular part. Because I could easily just say, those photographers that charge by the hour, what do they think they're there for? Just hours? I'm charging $295 an hour. That's what I care about, is the $295. No, you're hiring me to photograph your wedding. The hours? No, not right. I am covering your wedding, period. However long it takes. You hire a wedding photographer for wedding coverage. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to show up beforehand. I'm going to stay during, and I'm going to stay until you kick me out. By the way, they have kicked me out before. Once I tell you the story, it won't be quite as interesting as what I just said. But once maybe this happened 2 or 3 times, but I'm picturing one bride in particular who came up to me and said, you know, we're all drunk. And all these photographs you're creating of us, we're not going to like any of them because of how we look and, how stupid we look and just the silly things we're doing. And so I think you're done. You've done a great job. And she effectively kicked me out of there. But that makes sense. I mean, once everybody does get drunk to some degree, I mean, right at first, everything's fun and exciting. But after a while, it's just the same stuff over and over again. And then it might get a little silly. So yeah, she kicked me out. So yeah, I'm being kind of silly when I say that. But that happens. I am there though for the wedding. I'm here for your one-time event, not a specific little 2-hour period or 4-hour period or 6-hour period. I cover your event. Now, there still needs to be photographers that do those kind of things because that's low budget. This isn't a low budget option though. This is for those who want to make a career out of this. Those who are after low budget are not trying to make a career out of this. They may be trying, but they're going to fail because there's just not enough money to be able to do it, not with low budget. I mean, how many weddings would you have to photograph? Maybe if you were a high volume and you had lots of photographers working for you, that would work. But if you're an independent, you can't be the low budget photographer. You just can't. You won't make it. You'll fail. You'll get busy because there's plenty of people who want that service. But you'll find that when it's time to replace your equipment because your shutter speed isn't working, so your shutter on your camera is not working very well anymore, you need to replace that camera, you don't have enough money in the bank to replace it. By the way, people have told me this before. Photographers, my students, they're desperate at that point, and there's not a whole lot you can do to help them when they're in a desperate situation. There's stuff you can do, but that's a hard situation. I say solve the problem before it becomes a problem. And you guys are here. So therefore you want that too. I could talk a lot more about that subject. I'm bringing it back to this. Starter ideas, unlimited time of the day of the wedding, a wedding album, parent albums, a video slideshow of the best images set to music, an engagement or save the date type portrait session, bridal portrait session, a premiere at a great restaurant's party room for up to 15. Everything you can think of to make it amazing. Get them to say, wow, this is how you create shareable moments, guys. That a premiere is the first showing of the photographs. That's what I say when I say a premiere at a great restaurant's party room for up to 15. And so on mine, it was the Dominion Country Club. And it was dinner and drinks, part of the deal. And they got a filet mignon steak. That was what the meal was. It was, the most expensive thing on the price list. So that's what they got when they work with me. I have more to say about that subject. I'll come back to it in just a little bit. Number 2, after you've identified and come up with the most ideal wedding package. Again, do not hold back on this. Don't say nobody will do this. It doesn't matter. And I'll prove it to you in just a little while. Take your blinders off when you're brainstorming. Come up with the most ideal package of cool stuff that you can include in this wedding package. Number 2, price each item in your ultimate wedding package. Price each item separately. Then put a value next to each one of the items. How much you would like to charge for each one if they were sold separately. Now I want you to add all that up. This becomes your one package price. The answer to the question when they call or email or fill out a web form, whatever it is, one of the things they ask is, how much do you charge for wedding photography? Another question is, are you available on? Both very important questions, but everybody wants to know how much you charge. So if you answer that question with that large number because of all the cool stuff in your one package, aren't they going to hang up the phone or never respond to your email if you give them that kind of crazy price? Not if you pay attention to the details in the next section. And I'm going to show you why, and you're going to understand, okay, that's pretty cool. But at this point, I don't expect you to get it. You will. Just putting a little teaser out there. Number 3, create your new price list. Make it pretty but functional. This is something that you're going to show your prospects. So make it simple for them to see what the items are with a brief description. You may have to give them more description or show them, and how much they cost so that they can easily cross stuff off, easily adds things up, and easy for them to make changes. I'm going to show you what that means here in just a little bit. Now, I am not checking chat. If you guys are asking questions, I probably should take a look. Okay, I don't see any questions. Good. Next page, double your wedding sale, the 3-step method. Here's the details. You just heard the 3 steps. Now it's the details. Now, of course, your clients are going to ask you, how much do you charge for wedding photography? And of course, you can rightfully assume that if you say some outrageous number, they're going to freak out, maybe even hang up on you. Maybe. But I have a different way of looking at it and a different way of presenting your prices than maybe you are used to. This is the grease that makes this machine work. So pay attention. You are going to be pleasantly surprised. I want you to try this. This is how I respond to that question. How much do you charge? Thank you for asking. My weddings are $12,000, but that's only if you get every single thing available on my price list. When's the last time anyone bought everything available at a store? When you go to the grocery store, do you say, I'll take one of everything? Of course not. Never. So I wouldn't expect you to want everything that I have the ability to do. Here's what happens. I give you my price list. Then you've got line item veto to cross out whatever you don't want, and then add up what's left. And there's your price. There's no haggle. There's no hassle. It's simple. If you think that number is still too high, cross a couple more things off. You're in total control of how much you spend. There's no pressure to attempt to find out what package you want. Have you seen those confusing package lists that most photographers try and make you choose from? You get to avoid that nonsense because you are creating your own custom package. I like pricing to be simple, so I make it simple for my clients. Now, two quick comments about human psychology. Number 1, people perceive a higher price to be a better product. Give an example. If you've got a car that's $70,000, even if you just see the numbers, let's say you're not even seeing the car. You've got a new car that's $70,000 and another new car that's $25,000. Based on the price alone, can you assume one is better than the other? Yeah, you're going to assume the $70,000. And if someone was giving it to you for free, sight unseen, you'd take the $70,000 one, because even if you didn't like it, you could sell it and buy 2 of the $25,000 car, 3 maybe. So yeah, of course. Number 2, you know what? People brag when they buy expensive stuff. Now they get to brag about hiring me, a $12,000 photographer, but they don't pay $12,000 because they're not choosing everything on that one package. But they are hiring a $12,000 photographer. Now, this was in 2013 when I created this. If I was continuing to do weddings, my price would not be $12,000 today. It would have increased multiple times over the years. I mean, maybe you're comfortable with the 12,000, maybe you're not even comfortable with 12,000, but it's not a number that's just off the top of my head. This came up from adding the things I included in my ultimate package. So your ultimate package determines price, not what you feel. If you're including how you feel into your price list, I absolutely guarantee you are one of the ones who's going to fail. How you feel about prices has nothing to do about choosing correct prices. Don't include feelings. Numbers are logic. Don't include feelings when you're figuring out math. Math doesn't need your feelings. 1 + 1 is going to equal 1, no matter 1 + 1 is going to equal 2, no matter how you feel about it. Here's my price list. Now, I'm going to go through these things one at a time. And of course, if you've got any questions, you can feel free to ask those anytime. I am monitoring lightly, although maybe Javi is probably helping me out. I am monitoring the questions that will come up here on Zoom. However, I'm not monitoring those that are coming up on Facebook. We're simulcasting to Photo Essay and to one other San Antonio Photography Group right now. So I'm not monitoring those. Feel free to ask your questions there, and I'll get to them when I can. But if you're here on the Zoom call, I can get to those right away. So ask those whenever you have them. But now I'm going to show you the price list that I used. And you can see that don't know how that happened. Anyway, so a complete package is $12,000. Now, here's what that includes. If they want that item, they can write that number here on the side where the line is. If they don't want it, they don't have to. Now, I say they cross it out. Some of them crossed it out. Some of them just wrote a number over here. They can do however they want to. But let's go through each one of these that I included in my ultimate package. So this volume number 1, volume number 2, volume number 3, these are albums. And you'll notice this first one is an engagement album. I give every single one of my products a name because that helps it to stand out amongst the crowd. And you need to have lots of things that cause you to stand out from the crowd. Otherwise, you're just in it. And you don't get any attention when you're in a crowd. You get attention from being apart from it. So I called the engagement album Reflections of Our Love. That was its name. Now, that didn't mean it went on the cover. I guess if they wanted it to, I could do that. But that was my name for it, Reflections of Our Love. And it's an engagement album. I really didn't come across any other photographers who were doing this. But this engagement album is something that I could prepare and have at the wedding for them, because these images were made up of the images that we created at their engagement portrait session. And it could include some of their growing up photographs too. But generally these were the images. And I mentioned that I do more than one engagement portrait session, or I did 4 engagement portrait sessions. And let me tell you the reason. There is no one outfit, one location, one time of day, one season of the year that encompasses everything about that couple. Generally speaking, those who hired me were at least 6 months out and as much as 18 months out. So therefore, we had plenty of time to get to know each other at portrait sessions, engagement portrait sessions. And so we were effectively creating this album. The next one is a wedding album. Now that is something you expect. The one after that is a parent album, another something you expect. These aren't unusual. These aren't out of the ordinary. I could have given them better names, and maybe I did, but in this version, I guess it's not there. I thought I had a better name for it. I'm recommending that you have good names for each one of your products. but this was a total of 3 volumes of albums. And there was a package where I had in addition to a single wedding album, I would have a ceremony album and a reception album. So there was that option as well, but you're not seeing that here. So you could include something like that. Again, this is your ultimate, not mine. It's whatever you want to do. I'm just throwing some ideas out there. And this is how I did it. So 25 10 by 10s, 36 12 by 12s. You can choose whatever size you want. It could be square. I chose square format. You can choose a horizontal. You can choose something really weird like tall, but I don't recommend the tall ones. I like the horizontal ones and I like the square ones. Those are my favorite. But you do what's right for you. Custom leather album, custom leather cover, the custom portrait retouching, complete portrait finishing. This was high quality stuff, and it was not inexpensive to create. And these prices today would be much higher. I mean, that was almost 10 years ago. So yeah, they're going to be much higher today. The engagement photography session, $325 each. So if we did 4, that would be $325 times 4. So each one, $325. This would include 1 digital file for publication copyright usage. It is traditional to put your photograph in the newspaper. However, very few people do that anymore. But that was the reason why the 1 digital file with publication usage rights. That was its motivation. That was the reason why it existed, to do that kind of thing. But also so that they could post it on their Facebook and Instagram and whatever social media that they have. Share that with friends. Use that photograph for their save the date cards, that kind of thing. You can include save the date cards as part of your ultimate package. Next one is Special Reflections of Our Love. You notice that's the same exact name as the volume number 1 engagement album. You see a Special Reflections of Our Love. This is not in print. This is a slideshow. I would bring my projector, and I've got a really good projector. You can see it even if you're in a room that has lights on. I create this digital slideshow, set it to music of their growing up photographs, which may or may not be in the engagement album version of it, but they would be in this version in the slideshow presentation, and engagement images from the up to 4 sessions that we did from their engagement portrait session. And we would show these at the reception. So I think is that still there? Somebody went off mute for a moment. I could hear myself. That's weird to hear myself. At the Reflections of Our Love slideshow presentation, this is super cool. At the reception, usually the very first thing that happens is a prayer at the beginning. Once it actually starts, I mean, they let people in and mill around and that kind of thing. But once things actually get going, it's usually a prayer that things are starting off with. It could be the first dance. So there's different things it could start off with, but let's go with it so that you can paint a picture in your mind, and so that I can paint a picture in your mind. This is a prayer, and then immediately following, before dinner, is when this special presentation is given. And not everybody chose to take me up on this. Again, they have line item veto. They could easily reduce their price by $1,200. By the way, I would increase that price today. But anyway, that's the price that it was in 2013. And it's just because it's very time consuming. When I'm working with their growing up photographs, I often have to do a lot of artwork on their growing up photographs. It's very time consuming to do it. But I would present this. I would have to, have someone from my team set up the screen, the projector, the audio, just all this, the computer, everything would have to be set up ahead of time. And I wouldn't be able to do that. So someone else would have to set it up for me. This was set up, ready to go. It had already been tested. It was just a matter of pressing play. And each time that we did this, again, it wasn't every single time. Each time that we did this, the room was in tears. Tears of joy, of course. You have an emotional product. People don't need a photographer. They hire you for emotional reasons, not logical ones. So therefore, everything that you can do that's on that emotion side is the right thing to do. You want to do that. You want to evoke and to cause this to occur. You're going to see another one of those here in just a little while that causes that, but it's for one specific person. So, and that's this next one. The pre-bridal portrait session. Now, there's a lot of different names for this. It could be just bridal portrait session. So whatever you want to call it, it's a photograph of just the bride in her wedding gown. I would include one digital file with publication rights. Again, this is traditional, but a lot of people don't do the tradition of putting their photograph in the paper. It used to be a legal issue where you had to, or it wasn't considered legally binding because you didn't share it with the public. Now there's a different way that it's done, so you don't have to do that anymore. That's still a legal thing though. Kind of old. And then a 5x7 gift portrait in a custom folder. Now, this is kind of cool. No, this is really cool. This is a product that I call Father's Pride. This 5x7 gift portrait. This is her favorite photograph that she wants to give to her dad. Plus a message that she wants to send. And I create a piece of art out of this photograph and her message. And it's done as it folds. So it's 5x7, but it folds into, was that 3.5 by 5? So it's folded, right? And so it's got a, it just folds right in the middle. But this is a piece of art that is small enough that she could carry down the aisle with her and then give to her father just after he's kissed her and he's heading back to his seat. She hands him this. And I love this because a lot of dads are stoic, and this makes even the most stoic cry. This message is solely for him. This message is something he understands because it comes from his daughter. He gets back into his seat. He opens this thing that his daughter has just given him. And I have the photographer over here catching his reaction as he starts bawling. It happens nearly every single time. And he goes around at the reception showing everybody. He's proud. Father's Pride. I actually teach a class on how to do that. It takes me about 2 hours. So there's a whole lot more that I can say about that. But I think you got the idea. That's the bridal portrait session. And then, of course, they can buy any prints that they want, and that's not part of this. Extra prints are on them. That's a separate sale. Then the wedding fantasies. This is a special photography session that happens between the ceremony and the reception with the bridal party. This is if they have enough time to make that happen, or if they plan the time to make that happen. So sometimes it's, because that is not including the formals that happen after a wedding or before if they're not traditional. And a lot of them are not traditional, so that's pretty normal. But if they do it traditionally, those formal photographs happen after the wedding. And then there's usually there's oftentimes where they're going straight to reception, but there's sometimes when there's a gap in there, a planned gap or otherwise. And in that time, if they have it, if they want to do that, we can take them somewhere. We can meet somewhere and do a special session for just the bride and groom and their wedding party and do some really cool stuff. Sometimes this is done at the church. Sometimes this is done at the reception site. Sometimes this is done at a place that's all together, just a cool place to meet and do some photographs. And they're all dressed really nicely, so perfect. That's the wedding fantasies. And then
Tim.
Uh-huh.
Is there a way that we can see the list?
What list?
The list that you're going over.
Am I not sharing the screen?
No, sir.
Well, I'm really glad you told me that.
I've been trying to message you. Thank you, sir.
That's what I've been meaning to show you. Sorry, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much for
Well, you're welcome, sir.
telling me. So yeah, this was supposed to be on your screen the whole time. I didn't realize that it wasn't. My bad. It's on my screen, and I made an assumption that it was on yours too. Zoom. Gotta love it. All right. So we are here on the Wedding Fantasies. We're talking about that session that's in between. And the next is the premiere showing. This is something that happens after everything's done. This is when the bride and groom get to see their photographs for the very first time ever. I mentioned this earlier on. And this, for me, was a presentation of your wedding and reception photographs by special invitation only for up to 15 guests at the Dominion Country Club. Food and drinks are included. This was the very first time that you could see the photographs. Yes, at the Dominion Country Club. Food and drinks are included.
Come on, turn up.
You got it? There we go. Perfect. So that was the premiere showing where you're showing those photographs for the first time. Fantastic way to show your photographs. And then the Lover's Story. This is a custom movie made up of 80 of your favorite photographs. Now, this could include video imagery as well, if you have it. And I definitely would, in 2013, I wasn't adding any video to this. In 2021, I can't imagine not including video in this. It's so easy for us to do it nowadays. Your cameras have it. In 2013, occasionally you'd find a camera that had it. But in 2021, pretty much every camera's got video. Plus, you've got a cell phone. So I would definitely include video in that. Made up of 80 of your favorite photograph, beautifully set to music. Now, that Lover's Story and the premiere showing could be very similar to each other, but they aren't the same thing, because the Lover's Story is definitely made for someone to be able to share. And so they could put this on their social media pages. They could email it to friends and family. So it has a different purpose in mind. So it is different. And then 15 Jim Landers customized thank you folders. These are something that I created that they could use as their thank you cards. So customized thank you cards is what that is, so that they can send this out to their friends and family to thank them for what it was they did. This wouldn't be something you send out to everybody. This would be just those who really, really helped out the bride and groom the most. Now, you'll see on there the things that you expect. Every image you create at the wedding, high-res digital files, you see a price there, and you see the base. Now, this is the thing that makes up where this is coming from, because yes, they have line item veto, but it's got a base, because I have to be there in order to do this. So they can't line item veto me out of it. So therefore the base is $28.50. So no one had a price less than $28.50. Nobody. But almost everyone wanted the high-res digital files. And so for the most part, once I switched to this, nearly everybody did a minimum. My minimum jumped from about this, it was a little bit more than that, to this plus this as my base, plus all these other things that went in here. Now, here's the really cool thing about this. When you tell someone you're a $12,000 photographer, the initial reaction might be shock. However, when you tell them not everybody is going, and no one wants everything on the list, you can make that example of when you go to the grocery store, no one wants one of everything. They pick and choose the things that they want. So therefore, they're in control. Same thing is happening here. You cross off the things that you don't want or only add in the things that you do. And if you decide that that price is too high, cross something else off. You're in total control. So you can see that they have added in their all of things that they're interested in. They add in the total there. Their base is this 2850. That includes a CD slideshow set to music, but it is low res. It includes a USB thumb drive of low res images with copyright usage for web usage. They could easily print a 4x6 or 5x7, no problem. But anything larger than that's, you know, it's going to look like crud. So they have to get their prints through me. And people did order prints. I would also put them online. Part of this is, does it say that there? It doesn't say that, but it is part of the deal is these images would go online so that they could, so the friends and family could see them and order prints. And there would always be somebody ordering prints. And I started doing the online showing of the event photographs like this in January of 2000. And at that time, the company that I worked with was More Photos, and I think they still are in business, but they are far from the only ones that do it. So there's a bunch out there, Zenfolio and a bunch of others that allow you to put those photographs online so that friends and family can see it too. But at that time, More Photos said that they didn't have any other photographers in San Antonio who were putting their images online, and that was before I switched to digital. So I actually had those images scanned and put online for 2 years. Before I switched to digital. I switched to digital in February of 2002. So for 2 years, we would have those images scanned and we'd place them online so that people could order. All right, so I'm going to open up that chat window again. Stop the share so that I can see the chat window. Let's see. Those of you who are here on Zoom, did anybody, Javi, I didn't send that along to you, so you can't share that with them, can you? Let me do that real quick, because I want you guys who are here on Zoom to be able to have that handout. So there it is. That's the handout. That's what I have been looking at this time, this entire time. Did you guys get that? Go down into your reactions and give me a thumbs up if you got it. Cool. Thanks. Good, good, good. Okay, awesome. Now, let's talk about how we visit with people, what's included, and I'm curious if there's if you guys have some thoughts and ideas or questions about what might be included in this or any other types of questions. So you know, you can unmute if you have a question and go ahead and ask it. And for those of you who are on Facebook, I'm going to look here for a second and see if I have any questions there. I don't see one on Photo Essay. Let's go to the other one. Any questions, you guys? You're welcome to just ask. There we go.
Definitely a lot of good information.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there anything in there that you can adapt and use on your own?
Yeah, I'm meeting a client on Thursday for wedding portraits. I mean, one thing that I would help or suggest, obviously networking is very important, right? And man, something that happened to me recently that I don't want anybody stealing my idea, but I had gone, hey, sorry, we turn that off or down? I had gone to the Pearl to take pictures of just dragonflies and hummingbirds and even the heron that kind of goes there into the little pond there, and got some really amazing pictures. And during that time frame, I was, interacting with a lot of people passing by and showing them some of the photos and whatnot. While I was there, there was a guy proposing to his girlfriend. So I started taking pictures with my 300 millimeter lens. And after they were finished interacting, I walked up to their family, their parents. I said, "Hey, I took some pictures of the moment. If you'd like copies of the photos, here's my card. Text me or call me, and I'd love to, just as a gift, give you these pictures." And then I said, "You know what? As a matter of fact, just as a gift, I'm going to give you a free 16 by 20 print canvas of your favorite photo from the ones I took today." And so obviously they're excited to call me or text me or reach out to me.
Yeah.
So they did, and I have and then I have the canvas. I need to deliver it to them on Thursday, but they were saying, "Hey, we actually need a wedding photographer." And so, I've already in good faith made a good impression.
Heck yeah.
Right. And so I think doing things like that, going above and beyond to help, to show them not only that you're doing it, but that you're willing to, do other things to help make that a special day for them. So I'm going to take some of this and definitely incorporate it into my meeting on Thursday.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's definitely that's wonderful. I know not everybody's going to catch themselves in that situation, and it's good that you even identified that was something that was beneficial that you could do. You had the combination of something happen. You were smart enough to use that, as a first to help them out, and then
Right.
second of all to use that as a good marketing tool that is a win-win. That
Right.
there's nothing sneaky or underhanded about that kind of thing. This was all happy, good faith. One good guy helping out a couple. So this the perfect example. Yeah, I like that kind of thing, Andres.
Thanks, man.
That was good. All right. I'm going to go back to the share because there's several more things we could say. I'm going to make this just a bit smaller because I want you to be able to see the whole thing at one time. So let's bring it down to 100%. There we go. All right. So, this is how mine looked. Again, this was, this wasn't the original. This was the second one. This says 2014. You can see that up here in the top. But still a good number of years ago. And these are the things that I chose to include at that time because I wanted it all to go on one sheet because I felt that was easier for them to be able to add stuff up. That was my thought, my motivation there. You do not need that motivation. You can do this however you want to, but that's how I chose to do it. But again, let's go over these steps. I want you to brainstorm what an ideal wedding package is to you. Now, your brainstorming doesn't mean it's done. It's set in stone. You're not pulling out a chisel and putting it into anything. No, this is just your thoughts. This is before you've analyzed your thoughts. We do tend as creatives to start analyzing our thoughts immediately. We need just have a mental download. What are all the cool things that we could do? Now, this may mean that you're doing some online research. What are other photographers doing that sounds cool? And maybe you're incorporating some of those cool things and tweaking them to make them your own. But what do you think would be cool to include in your ultimate package? Just a mental download. And once you're done with that, then you can start analyzing and see how to make things happen. And maybe take some things off, or maybe even add some more things on. But ideal wedding package. What would it include if it included everything, money not being an option? This represents what your wedding package is. It doesn't mean they have to buy everything. And of course, whatever it is that you choose to include, you want to give it a price. just like you can see down here. And everything I chose to include has a price next to it. They can choose to include it. They can choose to not include it. But then they get to add it up so they know what their add-in total is. They add that to the base and there's their total. If they think that price is too high, they can take a couple of things off and reduce it. They're in total control. They've got the power.
Hey, Jim, quick question. When it comes to the prints, I guess, do you incorporate any of like your kind of like IPS stuff into that you kind of taught in other, previous lessons as far? I mean, obviously there's not going to be, I mean, I'm sure you're getting details from them ahead of time that kind of serve as the, creation, stuff and whatnot. But after the photos have been taken, do you kind of, I guess, can you break that down for us a little bit more?
Sure. Now that part's not part of the price list. It's part of the process though. And so that is something that happens long after the price list. That's something that happens after the wedding. And so maybe a couple of weeks after, maybe they go on vacation and they come back. So maybe 3 weeks after, definitely within a month after the wedding, I want to have a session with the bride and groom and parents, if they're available, to go over the images that are going to go into their album. During this time, we find out what's going to go in their album and what they want as loose prints and what they want for wall portraits. And at weddings, there's not a whole lot of wall portraits that they want, but there are some key ones that they want. They usually want just an iconic one of them that's going to go usually somewhere in their living room, maybe their dining room, sometimes in their bedroom. And this session can be done in their home, or it can be done in my office. I think a lot of photographers, though, do not have their own office, or their office is in their home. I would recommend that you do this in theirs, in the client's home, if you don't have your own place. And even still, there's some advantages to doing it at their place, because then you can talk about where on the wall these portraits can go. Say, oh my gosh, this, when you look at this photograph, now everything you're going to say is totally true and you believe it. You're not doing this for sales purposes. I mean, yes, that is happening too. But if you believe something, you share it. If you don't believe something, you keep it to yourself. So you come across this photograph, and in my mind, since I've been in their home and I can see different places where this would look good, when we come across that photograph, I'm like, oh my gosh, this photograph that we're looking at right now would look good right there on that wall over there. I mean, I can just picture it in my mind. This is perfect. I have my, in those situations, I have my projector with me. Now, for you guys, for this kind of thing, I'd recommend the mini projectors just to make this easy. The projector that I use is overkill for what I'm describing to you guys right now. It's nice. It's, up into the thousands. These little mini projectors are about the size of your cell phone, maybe a little bit thicker, but they're about the size of your cell phone, and you can hand hold them and point them at the wall. And when you say over there on that wall, you can have this image on the projector or connected to your phone, Bluetooth connected to your phone, and project it in the space where you think it's going to look good, in the size that's appropriate for the space. And when they can visualize it, that's when you get the sale. If they can't visualize it, if you're not doing a good enough job of causing them to visualize something, you're unlikely to get the sale. Not in the way that you're envisioning it in your mind. But when you can give them that visual with that tool, that little projector, yeah, I've made a lot of sales that way. By the way, if you do get one of those little projectors, that's one thing I don't recommend you loaning out to other people. I used to loan my stuff out all the time, and usually it came back. But that little projector, I only loaned it out once, and it never got returned. I don't even remember now who I loaned it out to.
Those projectors, I can't remember if it was you that I was talking to or one other photographer who I've met that uses them, but whoever was telling me this was saying, one of the ways that they use it is they don't even talk size until they've got the projector out. Because what they'll do is they'll just kind of back up, which obviously is enlarging the projector, and just say, hey, just tell me to stop whenever you think, that looks good. And so sure enough, they're, backing up, and they're like, all right, cool, stop right there. And the clients they probably thought, oh, like I probably need like a 16 by 20 of this. And you're like, no, that's actually 30 by 40. So, and it kind of makes these things a lot more real. So like, kind of like Jim was saying, the visualization, these, photographers know these things because this is the language we speak, but it's not always as, I think Jim puts it, Jim speaks in feet. So he won't say, I'm going to do a 24 by 36. He says, yeah, this is going to be a 2 foot by 3 foot. And just little things like that, I think, go a long way to help clients like realize exactly what they need and what they want. And it has nothing to do with upselling. It just has something to do. It has more to do with getting something that is going to fit what they have in their minds. And if they have a 3 foot by 4 foot in their mind, well, you need to help them realize that.
Yeah. And that's one good way of doing it. I don't do it. The backing up. That's something I don't choose to do. And my reason for that is because who's the pro here, them or me? And so I show them what I think is appropriate as the professional, as the person who does this day in, day out. I show them what I think is appropriate. And I can show them smaller or larger if they want to, but I start off with what I feel is the right thing, the right image, the size, the proportions for that image in that space. I just tell them this is it. And most of the time you've got such a good relationship with them by that point, they just say, oh, how much is that? And you tell them, you're like, ah, oh, crud. Okay, let's do it. That's what happens a lot of times because they know that they want it. They know that they want it. It's very clear that is what they want. And it's, when someone knows they want something, they find a way to make it happen. And our goal is to help them get what it is that they want. They don't know ahead of time what it is they want. You're the pro here. And so I just show them the end result, what I feel is the appropriate image for their wall. And like Kavi said, I do speak in terms of feet. And so if I was doing this presentation for you, I would say that's, we probably need a 3 foot by 4 foot or a 3 foot by 5 foot, whatever is the appropriate size for the space. And by the way, whatever size you think in your mind is big, and I'm generalizing this, a lot of photographers do know this. A lot of consumers do not. Whatever size you think is big is an irrelevant variable because how you feel about size doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, does it look appropriate in the space it's going to go into? So if you feel a 16 by 20 is a big one and you put it behind a couch on a wall with nothing else on it, it's going to look ridiculous. It's just too small. It doesn't fit the space that it's going into. So the only thing that determines whether something is big or small is if it is appropriate for the space it's going to go into, not your preconception of size. Size is relative to its final destination. How do you guys feel about that one? No one's commenting, so I guess you all agree.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can attest to that. Just working at the at the lab, I think we have I think there are a lot of standard, quote unquote, standard sizes that people understand. Like generally, those break down into 8 by 10, 11 by 14, 16 by 20, 20 by 24. These are all kind of like increments that I think a lot of people think in because that's what if you go to if you go to Michael's, you're going to find things in these kind of size ranges. And so I think they hear 16 by 20, that's kind of on the bigger end of these things. And because they may just not know kind of what comes after those sizes, so to speak. I think it's kind of important, like Jim was saying, to take context into consideration because conversely if they want a 30 by 40 but they've got a wall that's already got a ton of stuff on it, well, that might be too big for the space or whatever you have. And so I think that's one of the really big values. I think that doing in-home consults and having tools to help visualize, like a projector or whatever, are just invaluable when it comes to, the in-person sales stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And they do buy prints. I mean, the couple buys prints, the immediate families buy prints, and those images that you put online for friends and family generally just get looked at, but you will get a few sales off of that as well. As far as the average sale that does get added into it, but as far as what I'm bringing up tonight, it's just the initial sale. So doubling your initial sale, not the end result sale. And there's a lot of things that can be done on that particular topic. In fact, Jeff Truitt, who's here with us tonight, has a really good presentation on how to increase your sale by quite a bit on just headshots. Just a simple headshot for a business headshot or an employer of some sort or a CEO, just whatever, how to increase the headshot sale. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that can be done in that at that point. But this presentation is just about the stuff that happens ahead of time. The things that you can do when they are making a decision whether to choose you or not as their professional, as their photographer. So any last comments or thoughts before I have some final things I want to share? All right, so I have some final thoughts I want to share. I want to suggest the same things you've heard a million times and probably agree with. I want you to get out there. I want you to try new things. I want you to open your mind to new things. You're creatives. You can handle this. I want you to learn new things. I want you to put yourself in uncomfortable situations because that's when you give yourself the potential to have the knowledge that you need to succeed. And if you do it early on in your career, you're going to have years to enjoy this. I learned this particular thing. I discovered it, just came across it because I was just trying to make it where people didn't hire me anymore, or that number was reduced because I wanted to spend more time teaching. 2013. I was giving it up, wedding photography, not photography, wedding photography, just because of how much time it took. An average of 74 hours per wedding. I wanted to take that out so that I could dedicate it to teaching. What happened is I wound up with more, not less. So I had to re-end it in 2015, 2 years later, because this worked so freaking well. Anytime you come across a new idea, you probably have some doubts. You probably have some, I don't know if that would work for me. I don't know if that would work for my clients. I don't know if my clients can afford it. You've got all kinds of things in your mind. Step out of your comfort zone. If you're already independently wealthy because of the things you've been doing for photography, you probably wouldn't be here today. Try this. Put it into a system so that you have consistency. It works. It worked by accident for me. It was tremendous, the amount of change. Doubling overnight. My prices didn't change, just the way I shared my price list. I went from multiple packages, trying to push that rock up the hill. They saw my low package. They saw my high package. Even though I started off with high, they saw the low one. And they want the lowest number possible. But when I only give them one package, they only see one price. So therefore, they associate me with being that one price, $12,000. In 2013, I was the second most expensive photographer in San Antonio. Today, that would not even be top 10. There are two $20,000 photographers, wedding photographers in San Antonio. Instead of pushing that boulder up the hill, I put the boulder on the top of the hill and let them roll it down. That way, when they want it to stop, they stop it. They're getting the $12,000 photographer for whatever price they stop the price at, and they're in control. Now, I guess a word about how do they pay for that? Some would pay for that in full, but that wasn't the norm. Usually they would pay some amount down or divide the total number over the number of months that they had before the wedding. So if it's 10 months and $12,000, that would be $1,200 a month. But no one got the 12. Everyone crossed stuff off the list. There wasn't a single person that didn't cross stuff off the list. Everybody crossed stuff off the list. Nobody paid $12,000, but they got the $12,000 photographer. I want to thank you for your interest in growing your knowledge on the business side of photography. Thank you for dedicating your time and sacrificing other important things of your life to be here today. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to watching you grow. And I hope that you'll put on your calendar Portrait Profit Show. It's every single Monday. It costs you only time. Hopefully it'll grow your income a lot. Put it on your calendar. It's noon every single Monday, except the second Monday of every single month. And this happens to be the second Monday right now when it's at 6:30. For Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, this is Jim Landers, bringing you the weekly Portrait Profit Show, giving you evolving content, awareness, and even fun to the business side of photography. We provide helpful information, step-by-step processes, how-to articles, and action steps that will help you with the struggles that you deal with now, so that you are consistently realigned with the path that leads you to the success you deserve. Thank you for being here on this episode of the Portrait Profit Show. Thank you to Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. Until next week, you guys do well, grow, and I look forward to seeing you in a week. Thanks, guys. Good night.